Am I the a-hole for calling the police on my client? I, 28 female, do babysitting on the weekends to make extra cash. There's one family definitely should have phased out by now, but the kids are cute, and if I don't have another job, it's easy money. My issue is the mom is never home on time. She used to not give me return times, but finally I started asking as it made it impossible to get anything done on the weekends. I'd go babysit so she could go to brunch, but she'd be gone from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. My whole day was gone. After that, she'd start giving me times but never stick to them. She wouldn't even call to tell me. She would just stay out. Then on Saturday, I got to her house at 6, and she was supposed to be home by 9. I told her she needed to be on time because I had plans to go out with friends. I was even getting ready at their house after I put the kids to bed. She promised. Of course, 9 p.m. rolls around and she's not home. I call her, no response. Text, no response. Another hour, nothing. Still calling and texting. Finally, it is midnight, and by this point, my plans are long ruined. But I'm pissed and exhausted. I call her and leave a voicemail saying if she's not home in the next hour, I'm considering the kids abandoned and calling the cops. I also text her this. I try calling her 30 minutes later, and it goes to voicemail on the second ring. I text her again, and she leaves me on read. If she had reached out saying, hey, I'm staying out until next time, I would have stayed. I don't know any of her family nor the father of the kids, so I can't call them. I gave her a grace period of 15 minutes and tried calling again. Finally called the cops, non-emergency line. They showed up and I showed our agreement and text from earlier in the week, confirming that she'd be home by 9. They tried contacting her and she didn't answer. I was dismissed and they took the children to the police station. I go home and go to bed. Then I am awoken at 3 a.m. by a frantic call. It's her. Where are the kids? Why aren't you here? I tell her I followed through on my threat and to check the police station. She cursed me out, but I hung up and went to bed. The next day, she sends me an essay saying the kid's father was called, and there's a Department of Children and Families investigation launched against her. She called me every name under the sun, but I didn't think I was wrong, until I spoke to a friend with kids. She said I should have just waited it out and refused to ever sit for her again. She asked if her potentially losing her kids was worth me being petty. Now for the top comments. Not today home. One thing I've learned from true crime is the wait 24 hours to file a missing person thing is a myth. She wasn't where she said she'd be when she said, and wasn't responding to any communication. She was in fact a missing person at that point. You're just out here saving a life, Opie. Not stay home. Wait 24 hours to file a missing person thing. That notion is infuriating. What if you are shopping with your toddler and they disappear? Do you really expect the cops to say that you have to wait 24 hours before they do anything? Her behavior is absolutely irresponsible. She deserves a DCF investigation if she can't be bothered to even respond. If this were like some serious one-time emergency, I'd think, oh wow, a one-time emergency. Maybe she, for whatever reason, wasn't able to get back to you. But no, this is a repeated deal. Came here to say this. As a single parent, there are several things that would be red flags. 1. Lack of response. 2. What on earth as a parent am I doing that I'm not responding to my sitter? 3. Seriously, what was she doing to not be home till 3 a.m.? Even a date night / hookup. You were checking the phone to make sure everything is okay. I'm saying this knowing and admitting being a single parent is hard. It's challenging and can be draining, but it's no excuse to be MIA like this. At 3 a.m. she notices? According to her, she was ignoring my calls, and since I didn't know where she was going, she just said she was going to dinner with friends. The police couldn't search for her, just call her. Eventually she came home and saw no one was there. She was ignoring the calls of the person who was watching her children. You are so not stay home. That woman deserves to lose her children. What if Opie was calling about an emergency regarding the children? Next story. Am I the a-hole for letting my youngest niece live with me? My youngest niece is 16 and she asked me to fight for her to live with me and my husband. My husband was on board, so I did, and it pissed my sister off. My niece is the result of an affair my sister had while she was married to her other 3 kids' father. When my sister's ex found out, he left her. And my niece's father didn't want to be part of her life either, so she was left with my sister. 3 siblings who resented her because of how she was born, and I believe for a few years at least that her mom's ex should still be responsible for her. When she was 6, he told her if she ever spoke to him again, she would be sorry, that she was disgusting and not his problem to deal with. My sister has never given my niece the love she deserves. She always expected her just to be happy, to feel loved and wanted, despite most people not wanting her and making it very loud and clear for her. They fought a lot the last couple of years, an account of my sister not understanding why my niece was making such a big deal out of everything. I think what really made my niece want to leave is when her brother told her everybody wishes she was dead, that they wish she had never been born, that she was a mistake and a stain on the family, just like their mom. And my sister never comforted her or anything. Like I said, my sister is now mad, and some of the family judge me for taking her from her mom when she's doing her best. And part of me wonders if I may have made things worse. It's hard for me to see it that way, but with my family saying what they are, I feel like I need to know. Not today, Hall. That poor child is innocent. Your sister is horrible, and her affair partner is a deadbeat. Who cares if your sister is pissed? She screwed up her own life and the lives of her children. Your ex-brother-in-law is also an A for making threats and saying horrible things to a 6-year-old child. Take her and give her the love she needs. They punished her for being born. They don't deserve to even talk to your niece. Your sister isn't doing her best. At best, she's being neglectful of her daughter. Everyone in her immediate family that should love her doesn't. She's completely innocent of her parents' affair. Your sister probably just doesn't like the idea of the image of having her daughter live with you. Oh, hell no. Not today, Hole. I will never understand how a bunch of adults can be that cruel to a child for something that could never be their fault. And I can understand the pain from being cheated on. But to threaten a 6-year-old like that? You really have to be special kind of messed up. It seems you are the only one that actually cares about that poor girl. Please protect and love her as they all should have all this time. Yet you read that all the time on Reddit. Some poor kid is born as the result of an affair, and some people blame the kid. For what? Being born? It's the height of cruelty and makes no sense whatsoever. Not today, home. Your sister sucks, and your niece is lucky to have someone who loves her and willing to support her. She's being mistreated in that house. Why do children always seem to be getting punished for an adult's decision? Because the adults are awful people who don't own up to their mistakes and would rather shift the blame. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not taking my niece and nephew out on Halloween? I, 32 female, work as a paramedic and work 10-hour shifts. We are short-staffed at the moment, and I am working the overtime that is given. My niece, 4 female, and nephew, 5 male, are all set and ready for going out on Halloween. My sister and brother-in-law work different hours, and will reach out to me if I am available. Halloween is coming up, and they are traveling Saturday for a funeral and will be returning Monday. They did ask me if I could watch them, and I told them that I was working a 10-hour shift Saturday. Sister and brother-in-law think I work too much and don't spend a lot of time with the niece and nephew. Niece and nephew will be staying with our parents. 3 co-workers called out for Sunday and they filled 2 of the slots, so I told them that I would take/cover the shift for Sunday. My mother asks me if I could take them out on Halloween. I told them that I could not, as I had to work until midnight. She calls me and says that I will be ruining their first Halloween. I tried to explain that work is short-staffed and is a priority. My sister texted me a few times calling me a horrible aunt and to change my priorities to my niece and nephew. Not today, home. This subreddit drives me insane, and yet I can't stay away. What in the absolute heck is wrong with people? 1, it's your life. Work as much as you want/need to. 2, time with your niece and nephew is great, but it is not an obligation. 3, if your area is anything like mine, we need every damn paramedic we can find. 4, thank you for the work you're doing. Always, but particularly now. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to scream into a pillow. Lol, I totally get what you were saying. This sub can make me so mad. And yet, here I am. Am I the a-hole if I find all of the a-holes from here and yell at them? Sister and brother-in-law think I work too much and don't spend a lot of time with niece and nephew. They aren't your kids, so what if you work too much? She calls me and says that I will be ruining their first Halloween. Not really. The funeral isn't your fault or your sister/brother-in-law's fault. Life happens. Why aren't your parents taking the kids? Grandparents usually love to be involved in things like that, especially first-time events. My sister texted me a few times calling me a horrible aunt and to change my priorities to my niece and nephew. Same argument can be applied to your sister/brother-in-law. They should prioritize their kids' Halloween experience over a funeral. Exactly. Like, if my brother decides to have kids, I should use that to determine my career choice? Obviously not. I'm the only one of my siblings to have kids and I have never asked them to babysit. They didn't choose that. It's awesome when they spend time with my kids since my kids adore them, but it's not an obligation. You have work. It's important to work, but that doesn't even matter. Also, you could have plans and those plans could be staying home alone, and it's still okay to say no. Why can't your mom take them? Also, why is a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old having their first Halloween this year? I like the part about how your sister and brother-in-law think you need to spend more time with their kids. Translation? They want more free babysitting. These aren't your children, nor do they need to be your priority. They sometimes call me right in the middle of the shift to watch the kids. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling CPS and the police on my friend? This happened a few weeks ago and I'm wondering if I'm the wrong. I, 24 female, have a now ex friend, 20 female, who I call Susie, who's got a little boy, 3, who I call Timmy. A few weeks ago, she came to my apartment asking if I could watch her son for a bit, and I said no because I was busy. An hour later, she came back asking again, and I said yes, but only for an hour. So me and Timmy are having a fun time playing when she came back asking if I could watch him for a few more hours. I said fine, because he's a lovely boy, and I had a time. 2 hours passed and I called her to know when she's picking him up. No answer. I texted, I called numerous times with no answer. When I get a text on my way, 3 to 4 hours passed, she still hasn't picked him up. No calls, no text, nothing. Also, Susie's an addict. Now I'm mad because Timmy misses his mama and started getting fuzzy. So I called her again and again, but I just get a text back just a few more minutes, which was a total lie. I put Timmy in bed because now it was getting close to midnight when I got a call from Susie asking if it's possible to leave him here for the night and she would pick him up in the morning. I said no because I didn't have anything for a night for him, like clothes, and said you have to pick him up now. She didn't show up, but I got a text from her promising me she would pick him up early in the morning, which surprised she didn't. Now I'm really pissed because I felt used. I called her 40 times and sent 50 text messages with no response. So I called the police asking what I could do, and they called CPS asking me for the whole situation. Afterwards, CPS called Susie's mother, who came to pick him up. An hour after her mother came to pick up Timmy, I got a call from Susie saying she's on her way. I told her everything, and she called me a witch and an a-hole for doing that to her. My grandma said I did nothing wrong, but a few mutual friends said that I am. So am I the a-hole? Edit. I have to say that I texted her saying that I will call the police if she doesn't answer me. Also, I suffer from depression and PTSD. I'm good with kids for a few hours, but that was too much. It's her child, her responsibility. If she's not providing adequate care, that's her problem. I wonder if her mother cut her off on babysitting for similar reasons. That poor baby. I'm so glad that the authorities have her flagged now. It's not okay to abandon your kid with someone who has not consented. Literally, what else were you supposed to do? She lied to your face and abandoned her kid. You made a right call. Not today, home. Hopefully the kid can go live with his grandma. The mom sounds awful. And yes, she used you as a free babysitter so she could go and do her own thing. She didn't ask her mom to take care of the kid for a reason. You agreed to babysit for an hour, not an entire day. The situation requires the involvement of CPS. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for rubbing a painful truth in my parents' faces? My half-sister got married in July, and my family was all there. Me and my brother and sister didn't really want to go, but our parents made us. We didn't want to go because the 3 of us always felt like our half-siblings, half-sister is 27 and half-brother is 24, didn't really want us around. My parents always dismissed that. Mom said she knew her kids and that, of course, they wanted us around. We're their family. It was actually fights between me and them because I said at 17 I should have the choice not to go, and they disagreed. After the wedding, my parents tried to buy a couple of wedding photos from the photographer, but it turned out my half-sister and her husband had the photographer delete all the blended family photos. The only ones she kept were her parents, and full brother. Some with our mom and their dad's side of the family where me and my brother and sister weren't included, and all her husband's side's photos. So she had the photographer delete every photo with us and my dad and them for her side. My mom was so upset. She at first blamed the photographer, but he told mom it was at the request of the bride and groom. My half-sister said she had no use for the photos they had deleted and they only wanted to keep the ones they wanted. My half-brother told mom it didn't make sense to keep photos that only she would care about. She asked about me, my siblings, and dad. It is said our feelings were not a priority for his sister or for him. My parents were both upset by the whole thing. My younger sister cried so hard too. She really got her hopes up because of what our parents said, and to have the whole thing blow up like this was hard on her. Plus, they talked about buying the photos to her and how nice it would be to look back on those photos and have some in our house. I told my parents they should have listened to us better. That they hurt my sister because they wanted to just believe, instead of stopping to think that the fact 3 out of 3 of their kids together felt this way might warrant some discussion. My parents are mad at me for rubbing their faces in it. I so badly wanted to say I told you so, but I didn't. But I'm pissed at them because of how my sister is now feeling dumb for believing in the people she should believe in. And my brother is thinking about the hours wasted at the wedding when he could have been having fun with his friends. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. That's the few people you don't need to send Christmas cards to. Inviting you, having you post for photos, then deleting them without offering them to you is about as clear as please buzz off forever. I think you can bump both of them to no contact status. And to save you a post in a few years, they can get their own freaking babysitters. I think it's better to keep contact, so that when they need something in a few years, you can tell them your feelings are not my priority at this time. Oh yes, the pettiness of the long game. If they can stand the additional headache this event will inevitably bring up in the next months and years, I definitely have Opie and siblings hold on as low contact, before mic dropping and Moon walking away into no contact. Your parents have been idealizing their family dynamic. In denial. They now know that you're right and are acting out in heartbreak. Not the a-hole. Your parents were optimistic and your half-sister was just mean. To think that someone would behave in such a spiteful way on her own wedding day is sad. At least when any one of you 3 gets married, if you do, or with any other social events, you can dispense with having your half-sister around.